An escaped supernatural psycho killer is back on the loose. That's messed up what they did to Oscar Wilde. And a true story of coping with addictions and their many forms. All this and a little bit more next up on The Real Rush. What's happening, y'all? It's your boy Jade up here with The Real Rush, and thank y'all for tuning in to episode 4 right here on YouTube. Let's get on down to brass tacks with this week's new movies. We're going to kick things off with my review of the highly anticipated return of Halloween. This is the direct sequel to the 1978 John Carpenter horror movie classic, and this continues the story as we now follow Michael Myers as he's escaped from the mental institution where he's been held for the last 40 years, and he's got his mask back. He's about to get his hands on all types of weapons at his disposal and shit, and he is back on the hunt for one Miss Laurie Strode, a role which is reprised by the brilliant and beautiful Jamie Lee Curtis. And the cool thing about this movie is, as stated a couple moments ago, it's considered the direct sequel to the 1978 classic, so it shows her story arc over the last 40 years, how she's dealt with the PTSD of the events of the original movie, and how she's now kind of been waiting for this moment to happen. So she's like trained herself, and she's just leveled herself out to like boss level, the fucking max level boss level, and just to be all badass, and she's ready for action, and it's legit. There's a lot of Sasha Banks references there, yet I digress. This is a legit sequel, and as I stated, it is considered the direct sequel to the 1978 classic, so it's retconning every single sequel that actually followed in the original film series. So those are kind of considered an alternate reality. But not to discount any of them either, because there were some good ones that followed. They were decent. This one is easily one of the best in the series, aside from the original. It actually tells a story, so that sets it apart from your run-of-the-mill slasher fix. The gore's there, but it's not relied on too heavily, since it's relying more on the story and a little bit of humor that is in it, and the humor that is in it is on point. But it is true to the original all the way, down to the detail in the opening and closing titles, and the camera work, so it pays a lot of homage. Is there room for a sequel? Gonna have to see for yourself. Halloween looks to be a big hit this weekend and for weekends to come, since it is tis the season. Go see Halloween. Oh, and stay all the way through the ending credits if you wish. Bam. Next up on the Real Rush docket, The Happy Prince, starring and directed by Rupert Everett. And Rupert Everett stars as, there's something there. Sorry about that little group. Rupert Everett stars as Oscar Wilde, who is a known playwright, known for his plays such as The Importance of Being Earnest. And this actually follows the story of not only how he was unjustly incarcerated in the late 1890s Europe for his homosexual tendencies, but the years that followed between his release and a couple of years leading up until his tragic and untimely death. It shows how he was exiled from pretty much everywhere in Europe, so he had to use an alias just to get by, and it destroyed his family life along with his wife, Constance, and their 2 sons. And it shows detail of the lesser known story of what actually happened in the final years of Oscar Wilde's life. It's good, but it's not great. It has its slow moments, so that makes it, it's good. I still would recommend seeing it. But 2 things I did want to definitely touch point on of high note. Number 1, Everett does work in this movie as Wilde, so I could totally see him getting a Best Oscar nomination at like the BAFTAs in the very least within the next couple months, so keep that on your radar. And 2, it is a good tale to show how society has come a long way and still has some ways to go in acceptance to the LGBT community as we see it today. So, bam. The Happy Prince, check that out. And last but not least, on the Real Rush docket this evening, the new movie, Beautiful Boy. Now this is based on the true story of Nick and David Sheff. Nick Sheff, played in this movie by Timothy Chalamet, struggled with drug and alcohol addiction in the mid-2000s, excuse me, not the mid-20s, mid-2000s. And his pops, played by Steve Carell, David Sheff, shows how he's not only trying to deal with what his son's going through, but how he's trying to support him and help him through it as best he can. But this is a gripping story, especially for these times, given the addiction epidemic that's hitting with all types of things just across the spectrum these days. So it's going to hit those the hardest that have gone through something like that, or are currently going through something like that, or know somebody that's gone through these kind of issues. But Timothy Chalamet hasn't done a bad role yet, and he definitely does not disappoint in this one. He's getting the Best Actor nomination of some form, putting that right there, my stamp on that right there. And same thing with Steve Carell. I think he has very good chance of getting a possible Best Supporting Actor nomination of some form within the next couple months. So keep this movie on your radar, and not only keep it on your radar, but because of its importance and just how the fact that it's a true story and it's just essential, it's important. It's my Real Rush pick of the week. Go see Beautiful Boy wherever you can find it. It is in currently limited release, but it will be in wide release, playing everywhere on November 9th. Make sure that you stay through the entire ending credits for Timothy Chalamet's full reading of Charles Bukowski's Let It Enfold You, as his reading kind of ties the movie together nicely, much like the dude's rug. And that, ladies and gents, wraps it up for this movie's week reviews. This week's movie reviews. Please join us back here on The Real Rush episode 5 next week, where I'll be reviewing Hunter Killer, Johnny English Strikes Again, Mid-90s, Can You Ever Forgive Me, and What They Had. The cool thing about those final three titles are, I should say last three titles are, one of those, well, all three of those I'll be seeing at the Angelica next Friday night. So one of those Friday night Angelica picks will not only break last season's record of 164 movies, that's how many movies I saw last season, but it will also become, one of those movies will also become the 100th movie that I've ever seen at the Angelica at the same time. So the way that works is my seasons go from January 19th, that's when they start, until obviously January 18th, 11/59/59. So last season I saw 164. I'm looking to beat 165 this season, and I still got 3 months left to go, just under, in the remainder of this season. So, boom. That being said, that about wraps it up for this episode of The Real Rush. I want to thank everybody for tuning back in again. Please subscribe and spread the word of The Real Rush, just like everybody should be spreading love nowadays. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to comment, or put those below, I should say. Type those below. And please follow me on Instagram to follow me and see my check-ins at the movies as they occur. That's at JDubChampion, #TheRealRush. Thank y'all for tuning in once again. Have fun, y'all. Love J-Dub. We'll see you next time on The Real Rush. Enjoy yourself at the movies.